Today we're going to be ranking all of the Daedric artifacts in Skyrim, but with a twist. We're going to be ranking them based on power, gameplay, general coolness, and aesthetic of the item, yes. We're also going to be diving into the lore of these dark artifacts and the sick and twisted gods behind them, which may or may not affect my ranking. So, Daedric artifact tier list plus lore. To start off, what the fuck even is a Daedric artifact? In Skyrim you got two kinds of god, the Aedra, which are the good gods, and the Daedra, which are the bad gods. Now I know, this isn't absolutely objective, and there's some serious gray area to discuss here, and Elder Scrolls lore is as deep as a game, but let's just try to keep things simple for now. Daedric artifacts are artifacts either created by or otherwise bound to one of these evil Daedric gods. Lore-wise, the users of Daedric artifacts spread the influence of the Daedric lords in exchange for great power. So first we got Azura's Star and the Black Star. Azura's Star is the Daedric artifact of Azura, the Daedric lord of the moon and stars. It's basically a soul gem. In Skyrim, in order to enchant items and in order to recharge those enchantments, you need soul gems. White soul gems can contain the souls of anything but people. Monsters, undead, animals, whatever. Black soul gems can only contain the souls of people. Gameplay-wise, black soul gems are harder to find, but they're also way more convenient, because it's a much bigger pain in the ass to find a monster with a grand soul than to just kill a random guy on the street. Soul gems, when used, however, break, and you can't use them again, you need to get another one. The exception to that being Azura's Star, an infinitely reusable soul gem that you just need to refill with any kind of white soul. Basically, there's this evil wizard called Malin who's dying. He's trying to sustain his soul with Azura's Star, but he can't do that because as a person he has a black soul and Azura's Star is a white soul gem, so he finds a way to corrupt it. Azura sends you to go get the star, you go into it, you kill Malin or you kill his soul, and then you're presented with a choice. You can either return the star to Azura and she purifies it into the white soul gem that it was intended to be, or you could not return it and you get the corrupted version known as the Black Star, which is a black soul gem. It can only contain the souls of people. I am going to put the Black Star in S tier. I get this thing every single playthrough because you pretty much need to do some degree of enchanting or recharging enchantments anyway, and an infinitely reusable black soul gem is useful for any character, and for that very reason I'm going to put Azura's Star in F tier. It's not bad by any means, but because you have to choose between them, there is no use case where this is better than this. There is no reason why you would want to take Azura's Star over the Black Star. Unless you were role-playing as a loyal follower of Azura, I do not see why you would ever get Azura's Star over the Black Star. It makes it useless by comparison because you will always get the Black Star. The Dawnbreaker.
A new hand touches the beacon.
There were basically these angel demigod being things called the Magnagi, and one of them was Meridnunda, the Child of Light. Forsaken by her father Magnus, the god of light, for associating with the Daedra, she became Meridia, the Daedric lord of life and light. She basically seeks righteous vengeance on anything unholy in the mortal plane. Dawnbreaker is the embodiment of that. It's a holy sword, does good damage, it does 10 points of fire damage, which is really not great, but it also has a special effects that when you kill undead with it, it causes an explosion that makes other undead in the area either run in fear or die themselves. There's loads of undead in Skyrim, so that has its use case, definitely has its use case. However, the fire enchantment on it is too weak. That's why I'm gonna put it in B tier. I'm gonna mention something that's gonna heavily affect my ranking. In Skyrim, you run into this problem a lot of Daedric artifacts and unique weapons in general being out-enchanted and out-crafted in the late game, and Dawnbreaker is an example of that. You can smith a sword that does better damage, you can enchant it to do like 40 points of fire damage instead of 10, and then you can do another enchantment on it that adds another 40 points of lightning damage or something. If the fire enchantment on Dawnbreaker was higher, and if it was a little bit less replaceable, I would put it in A or maybe even S tier, but because of its replaceability, I am going to put it in B. The Ebony Blade. This sword is pretty fucking sick, but it's also really fucking sick. The Blade of Mephala, the Daedric prince of lies, secrets, and manipulation. What's really cool about this sword is that lore-wise, it's set to corrupt the user with madness, and the gameplay of the sword complements that because it forces you to act as though you have been. Usually you get the Daedric item after completing the Daedric Lord's quest. Not this one. Getting the Ebony Blade is how you start the quest. Its enchantment is weak at first, and it becomes stronger and stronger as you kill friends with it. Followers, people you've done quests for, basically anybody that's befriended your character, you kill them and it empowers the enchantment. Once you've killed 10 friends, I don't even have one, subscribe. The enchantment reaches its full full potential and you've completed the quest. At its full power, the Ebony Blade also has good damage and it drains 30 health from enemies. This means that it not only heals you for 30 health every time you hit, but it adds another 30 damage on top of the damage that it already does. The drain effect is independent from the blade's base damage. What's interesting about this sword is it's a contradictory playstyle. It's a two-handed greatsword that looks like a big katana, but it has the stats and attack speed of a one-handed sword. So your two-handed perks affects this weapon that function like a one-hander. I am going to put this in B tier, and I'm going to put it above Dawnbreaker. The reason I'm putting it above Dawnbreaker in B tier is because I think that the enchantment on it is less replaceable. You need to be pretty good at enchanting in Skyrim in order to enchant 30 points of drain life on a weapon. Editor's note on the Ebony Blade. In the lore, it's supposed to be immune to like melting and forges, and because of this, in the gameplay, you can't blacksmith it and you can't upgrade it like literally every single other weapon in the game. It also does not benefit neither your one-handed nor your two-handed perks. I completely forgot about both of these things when making this video. Had I remembered those two details, I probably would have ranked it lower. The Ebony Mail. Now, this one is particularly interesting. It possesses a lot of similarities to the Ebony Blade. They're both made of ebony. They both have ebony in the title, in the name. Both of them are altered versions of an existing ebony item that you can craft, right? The Ebony Blade is like a light version of the Ebony Greatsword, and the Ebony Mail is a chainmail version of the Ebony Plate armor that you can make. They're both lore-wise tied to betrayal as well. To empower the Ebony Blade, you need to kill your friends, and to get the Ebony Mail, you need to sacrifice a follower. They are both also contradictory playstyles, right? Ebony Blade, a two-hander that functions like a one-hander. Ebony Mail, a heavy armor with heavy armor stats in terms of its armor rating, but it's as light armor in terms of its weight, and it has an enchantment on it that muffles your movement when you sneak, making you less noisy and allowing you to sneak with heavy armor, which you can't usually do. Despite all of these similarities, they don't belong to the same Daedric Lord. The Ebony Blade belongs to Mephala, as aforementioned, and this one belongs to Boethia, the Daedric Lord of Assassination. Apart from muffling your movement, it also has another enchantment on it that creates this aura around your character when you're not sneaking, when you're in combat, that does a little bit of poison damage to enemies when you're near them. Both of those enchantments, the poison aura and the muffled movement, are things that you cannot enchant onto a chestplate, making this a rare scenario of a Daedric artifact being irreplaceable, and it's impossible to craft a better version of this. For that, I'm gonna put it in S tier. It also has fantastic armor value, and I mean, come on, like playing around as a goofy-ass heavy warrior sneaking around with this, if you want to play like that, you need to get this chestplate. Playing like that just adds to the hilarity of Skyrim. Now we got this grotesque beauty here, the Mace of Molag Bal. Fun fact about Molag Bal, the Daedric Lord of Domination. He was once a mortal. The mortal plane in Elder Scrolls goes through these cycles called Kalpa, where it's basically the end of the world and then it resets. Apparently Molag Bal was a person in one of these previous versions of the universe before attaining godhood. He's also responsible for the existence of vampires in the Elder Scrolls, which I think ties into the mace quite nicely. There was basically this priestess called Lemay, who Molag Bal roped in brutal ways that mortals can't comprehend or imagine. Bro basically clapped her in 12 dimensions. The assault was so brutal that she turned into this thing, the first vampire lord. All vampirism in Skyrim spread from her. It came from her. The reason that I say this ties into the mace well is the mace does great damage, first of all, let's mention that, but its enchantment absorbs 25 points of stamina and 25 points of magicka when you hit. It also casts Soul Trap on enemies. If you want to fill a soul gem, you don't have to manually cast Soul Trap, but that's a nice little bonus on the side. But yeah, it drains stamina and drains magicka. The gameplay in Skyrim is based around your three main resources, right? Health, magicka, and stamina. When you become a vampire in Skyrim, your base vampire ability is Drain Life. The Mace of Molag Bal, being a one-hander, can be dual-wielded with this spell. And that's really cool because Drain Life drains life, and the Mace of Molag Bal drains the other two resources. So wielding this mace as a vampire gives you regeneration of all three, right? And that's what I find really cool about it. This is the Mace of Molag Bal. Molag Bal is also the father of vampires, and this mace complements the vampire playstyle if you become a vampire. The gameplay complements the lore. A tier. So I did a quick playthrough where I collected all the Daedric artifacts to get footage for this video, and during it I realized that the Mace of Molag Bal only does magic and stamina damage but doesn't drain it. What the fuck? I mean, I haven't used this mace in years, but I could have sworn it drained magicka and stamina. I'm not the type of guy that believes in like the Mandela effect or something. This has me questioning my entire reality. Oh boy. The Rufal Axe. This item is really legendary. It's one of the most iconic weapons in Skyrim. Everybody uses it all the time. It's kind of a meme how much meta is, oh, you're using the Rufal Axe. No, I'm kidding. This thing is absolute dog shit. So, two-handed two-handed axe belonging to the Daedric Lord Clavicus Vile, the Daedric Lord of Lies. No, not lies, the Daedric Lord of Deals. Clavicus Vile is a Daedric god. He has a dog named Barbas, who is also a Daedric god. You get the axe during his questline, and he tells you, hey, you can keep the axe if you kill Barbas with it. And what do you get for becoming a doggy killer? You get a mediocre-looking axe, in my opinion, that deals 20 points of stamina damage. Stamina damage, mind you. Not stamina drain. Stamina damage. When you hit, it only makes your enemy lose stamina. F tier. This thing is fucking terrible. If you don't kill Barbers, however, you get the double bonus of not being a doggy killer and getting the Mask of Clavicus Vile, which I'm going to put in D tier, and here's why. The Mask of Clavicus Vile, while infinitely better than this piece of shit, does not have any real combat use case. It's enchantment. It increases your speech skill, and it reduces prices when you talk to vendors. It also has a 5% magic or regeneration buff, but you don't really need that. That's not an important detail. People just put this helmet on when they talk to vendors to get better prices, which is nice, but it's not higher on the list because it doesn't have any other use case. Now, Mehrunes Razor, the weapon of Mehrunes Dagon. Mehrunes Dagon was the final boss in Oblivion, or a physical form of him was. This absolute fucking meme of a weapon. This hilarious yet awesome dagger, best dagger in the game. It has the same stats as a Daedric dagger, which is one of the best daggers that you can craft, but it has a unique enchantment, another case of an irreplaceable enchantment. It has a 2% chance, or to be completely accurate, a 1.98% chance, but who really cares, to one-shot anything. Only Mirak and Karstag are immune to this effect. Aldrin the World Eater, a dragon demigod, Harkon Lord of Vampires, and even the Ebony Warrior himself are not immune to this effect. They can all potentially be one-shot if you just boop them with this edgy emo goth kitchen knife. S tier. The reason I'm not putting it ahead of the Ebony Mail is because it's a dagger. Daggers are usually good for stealth builds, and I'm not a big fan of stealth builds. I know the meme is like stealth archer or whatever. I almost never play stealth builds, and this is just a subjective thing. This could easily go ahead of the Ebony Mail. Next, we've got the Ogma Infinium. It's the Book of Hermaeus Mora. Hermaeus Mora is Bethesda's version of a Lovecraftian monster. His whole shtick is that he steals knowledge and hoards it. And with that knowledge, he wrote this unholy thing, which when this guy tried to read it, the information turned him into ash. When you try to read it, however, it gives you an option of 3 paths. Warrior, Mage, Stealth path. You choose one of those paths, and every skill associated to that path levels up 5 times. It's fine. Nothing mind-blowing. Most people play builds that are combinations of skill trees from all the different paths, or from at least 2 of the different paths. So leveling every skill in one path, you'll inevitably end up leveling some skills that are useless to you, but still, it's C tier, it's decent, it levels up your stuff. Nothing crazy. Now we got the Ring of Namira, the Daedric Prince of Death, Decay, Cannibalism, and all that good stuff. In order to get this ring, you need to join a cannibal cult and complete their initiation via cannibalism. You gotta befriend this priest guy, and you gotta trick him into becoming your grotesque sacrifice. The ring, when you equip it, gives you a pretty hefty stamina buffs, 50 stamina, and it also gives you the ability to cannibalize people that you've killed. When you cannibalize people, you get another buff of plus 50 to your health and plus 50% to your health regeneration. So the stamina buff is permanent, but to get the other 2 buffs, you need to keep cannibalizing. You can basically roleplay as a hungry Patrick Bateman. And the buffs themselves are pretty good. Another situation where the playstyle complements the lore. B tier, the Sanguine Rose. So picture this. You meet this weird guy in a tavern. He seems friendly. He offers you a few drinks. You heartfully oblige. You're having a good time, but then everything goes black. You then wake up in a temple to a priestess accusing you of fondling the statue of their goddess. You proceed to go on a quest to backtrack what happened while you were blacked out, kind of like Hangover, and to find out what you did in your intoxicated state. Intoxicated, of course, being Yelvish for shit-faced. You run around Skyrim and you find out that you have caused some degree of mischief in your holly jolly state, including but not limited to fondling the statue of a goddess in a church, stealing a man's goat and selling it to a giant, and marrying a hagraven. The quest leads you back to your mysterious drinking friend, and it turns out he was Sanguine, the Daedric Prince of poor life choices. He's so pleased with your party last night that you totally remember. He gives you the Sanguine Rose, a staff that has the ability to summon a Dremora Lord. There's a lot of things that I like about this staff. First of all, it's a staff in Skyrim that is not completely useless, which is rare. Second, it complements almost any build, especially if you're not good at conjuration. If you can't summon demons, this gives you a really powerful summon that you can just use with the staff, right? You could be playing any build, add this staff to it, and you've got that build plus a Dremora Lord. And for that, I'm gonna put it in S tier. And as I mentioned before, the Dremora Lord is one of the most powerful summons in the game. The Savior's Hide and the Ring of Hircine. Another situation where you have to choose between two artifacts. Hircine is the Daedric god of the hunt. He made werewolves and other werebeasts to be the ultimate predators. The Savior's Hide, first of all, I gotta give it points for looks. It's really cool. It's light armor, it has some magic resistance, and a nice big 50% poison resistance. But poison resistance in Skyrim is pretty useless, so I'm gonna put it in C tier. Basically, it's light armor that looks pretty cool, and it has some magic resist, and the poison resist if that's ever useful to you. The quest has you following a guy around who's a werewolf, and if you decide to kill him, you get the Savior's Hide, but if you don't kill him, you get this thing, the Ring of Hircine, which is useless, and it's stuck to your finger, and you can't take it off, and it does nothing. Unless you're a werewolf, but we'll get to that. If you become a werewolf in Skyrim, you can only transform once every endgame day, and you have to maintain the transformation by killing people and eating them. If you lose the transformation, you can't transform again, it goes on a 1 in-game day cooldown. The Ring of Hircine removes that cooldown. So useless if you're not a werewolf, convenient if you are. Also, you can actually take the ring off at the end of the quest, which kind of ruins it for me, because I like the idea of being cursed and you can't take it off. I'm gonna put it at a low B tier, and the reason for this is werewolves don't scale very well. This ring would be an A or an S tier depending on how good werewolves are, but yeah, because werewolves don't scale well. If you're modding werewolves, get this ring is S tier. But vanilla game, low B. The Skeleton Key. Now the Skeleton Key is technically, yes, it is a Daedric artifact, but it's not an item that you're meant to seek out. It's actually a turn-in item. Lore-wise, it belongs to Nocturnal, the Daedric god of shadows, night, and thieves, and it's said to have the ability to unlock any door, both physical and metaphorical, meaning that there's some way for a person to use it on themselves, and that would unlock their full potential, whatever that means. I don't know how one would go about unlocking their full potential with the Skeleton Key. I am not fully aware in which opening you are supposed to insert it, but in gameplay, you can't use it like that anyway. In Skyrim, it's just a glorified fucking lockpick. When you pick locks in Skyrim, lockpicks can break when you fail. This thing does not break, so you have infinite lockpicks. I am going to put it in E tier, and here's why. Here's why it's not F tier. This is not supposed to be a useful item. Bethesda could have easily just made this a turn-in item. But no, they actually put in the extra effort in to make it so if you try to pick a lock before you turn in this quest, you actually end up using the Skeleton Key. Kind of an Easter egg, kind of a neat little detail, and because of that neat little detail, I'm gonna put it in E tier. When you do turn the quest in, Nocturnal makes you one of her Nightingales, and as a Nightingale, you get to pick one of 3 abilities, and you get the Nightingale armor set and some cool weapons. Yeah, you would not pick the Skeleton Key, obviously, over the Nightingale set. The Nightingale set is not, they're not Daedric artifacts, so they're not in this tier list, but yeah, they're really cool, and obviously you want to turn in the quest and get that. The Skull of Corruption. The Skull of Corruption is a really stupidly designed weapon. So it belongs to Vermina, the Daedric Prince of Nightmares. You get it by investigating a town where everybody's having nightmares, and you find out that the staff was the cause. And it does absolute dog shit damage. It has the special ability when you use it on a sleeping target, right? You break into somebody's house, you steal their dreams, and that gives you a few charges for the staff. When the staff is charged, it goes from doing absolute dog shit damage to sub-mediocre damage. And it runs out of charges. You need to keep charging it with dreams. I don't know. You would expect something more powerful for something like that, for something that needs to be charged. I don't know. What if instead of damage, when you had it charged, it shot a fear spell at people that also did damage over time? Oh, sure, you might say, oh, but it's fear spell that does damage over time, that's overpowered. Yeah, but you would need to charge it with dreams. Plus, it works lore-wise. It's like you're shooting the nightmares at people, right? You're shooting the nightmares that you stole with the staff at your enemies. Due to roleplay coolness, I'm gonna put it between the star and this piece of shit. There is nothing worse than this. It does not deserve to be behind the rueful axe. Okay, now we got some really cool ones left. First of all, Spellbreaker. Spellbreaker is the only Daedric artifact in Skyrim that's a shield, and it belongs to the Daedric Lord Periite. And Elder Scrolls players tend to have a very similar reaction when they hear that particular name. Periite who? Yeah, so Periite is easily the least known Daedric prince. He's the god of disease and pestilence, but also he's the god of undiscriminatory balance and shit. Periite, the reason he's so unpopular in the game, but also in real life, players don't know about him, he does not intervene with the mortal realm. His nature is to let nature take its course. He allows the wolf to hunt the elk. He allows the old man to fall ill. He allows trees to wither and die so that new ones may grow. However, he does intervene when something fucks with that balance. If you could say that somebody going mad in the Elder Scrolls universe is the doing of Sheogorath, or somebody scamming someone in a deal is the work of Clavicus Vile, you can also say that something like the Darkguard defeating the vampire lord Harken who wanted to blow up the sun is Periite's doing, or influenced by Periite. You could say that because Harken blowing up the sun would have disrupted that balance. So yeah, there's a little bit of a lecture on Periite and how he works. Shields in Skyrim typically block physical damage and not spell damage, unless you get the perks for it. But this one has the special enchantment of when you block with it, it casts a ward, and it has a cool visual effect that you can see. It casts an anti-magic ward that absorbs 50 points of magic damage, meaning that any spell that does 50 magic damage or less is useless against it, and anything, say it does 60 damage, you only take 10. But it also stacks with the perk that makes you take less damage from magic when blocking. The blocking perk reduces magic damage taken by 50% when you're blocking. So say a spell does 100 damage, Spellbreaker reduces it to 50, and then you resist 50%, so you only take 25% damage. This is another rare case of an irreplaceable enchantment on a Daedric artifact, so we're gonna put it in S tier. I'm gonna put it over here, because again, I love shield. In fact, I'm gonna put it ahead of the Ebony Mail because it's a shield. Shields have the coolest perk in the game, in my opinion. The final perk when you max out your shield skill, where you can block and charge with it, and you're blocking and you're knocking everything down. You can do that with Spellbreaker too. So I'm gonna give it a high S tier for fuck yeah points. Volendrung. This massive and badass warhammer, unlike this piece of shit that does stamina damage, actually absorbs stamina, and it absorbs a whopping 50, but it is also a two-handed mace. It does great damage. Two-handed weapons in Skyrim have a stagger effect, and it's a mace, which is the best melee weapon type in the game, because only the special thing of maces scales well in endgame. So if you don't know, swords in Skyrim crit. Let's say the weapon does 10 damage, but you've got a lot of enchantments and perks on you that make you do 100 damage. The sword isn't going to do 200 damage, it's going to do 110. Only the base damage of the weapon is added to it. Axes have a decent bleed effect that is really negligible the later you get into the game, and maces ignore armor, and in the case of two-handers like this bad boy, they ignore up to 90% armor. You have this big, high-damaging, staggering, armor-ignoring, fast-swinging bonk stick. Yes, fast-swinging is the second fastest-swinging warhammer in the game. So what are you gonna do with it? Power attacks, of course. Lots and lots of power attacks. But power attacks cost stamina. Volendrung absorbs stamina. Unlimited power attacks. A tier. Volendrung also gets points for coolness, not just aesthetic, but there was this Aedra god, Aedra, not Daedra, called Trinomac. He fell from grace or something. He went from being Trinomac to being Malakath, and his followers became the Orc. Malakath is the Daedric lord of vengeance, curses, and bonking shit with hammers. Interesting fact, both Volendrung and Spellbreaker were made by the dwarves. They were not made by their Daedric lords like these other ones. So we don't know how they became the weapons of these Daedric lords. Since both Periite and Malakath are kind of considered to be weaker Daedric gods, maybe the weaker ones that don't make their own weapons claim already existing ones, and they make it so that this already existing weapon spreads the will of that Daedric lord. I don't know. It's uncertain in the lore, and these are both dwarven technology. They're not made by gods like the other ones. Now we've saved the best for last. The fan favorite, the weapon of the once mighty and now arguably even more dangerous Mad God. Gentlemen and the 3.4 ladies watching this, I present to you
the Wabbajack! Huh? Huh? Didn't see that coming, did you?
So the Wabbajack is the staff of Sheogorath, the Daedric lord of chaos, madness, and cheese wheels. You heard right? Cheese wheels. Basically, there was this really powerful Daedric god called Jiggalag who the other Daedric gods betrayed, and they turned him into Sheogorath, the mad god. In the Oblivion DLC, he tries to become Jiggalag again, and possibly succeeded, with the player character in Oblivion, the hero of Kvatch, possibly taking his place as Sheogorath. This is implied both in Oblivion, but also in Skyrim, where Sheogorath himself directly recalls events personally experienced by the hero of Kvatch in lines that he speaks in the game. So that's a creepy fact that is sort of confirmed. Basically, it's indirectly, this isn't like a conspiracy theory or anything. It's officially indirectly confirmed and heavily implied throughout the games that the Sheogorath that we see in Skyrim is not Jiggalag, not the same one from Oblivion, but he's actually the hero of Kvatch, the player character. I'm gonna put this at the top S tier, is the best weapon in the game. The Wabbajack is one of the most iconic weapons in all of gaming, at least in my head it is. If it's not, it should be. But what does it even do? I didn't even mention what it does. The Wabbajack, on use, has a random effect. It has a load of random effects, many of which are insanely overpowered, but it can also backfire horribly. The random effects include, but are not limited to, changing the size of your target, a random elemental damaging attack, an insta-kill, turning target to cheese, turning target to sweet roll, turning target into a gold coin, summoning creatures that help you, summoning creatures that attack you, temporarily making your targets ghostly so you can't attack them, but they cannot attack you either as sort of a crowd control. You can also accidentally help your target, heal the target, buff the target, makes the target invisible, etc, etc. Another thing about this weapon is the fact that it does not have a level requirement, unlike all of the other Daedric artifacts, meaning that you can get this thing at level 1. Imagine you're using this thing at level 1 fighting some level 1 bandits. You turn one target into a chicken, but then you turn the other target into a Dremora Lord, which could also happen. You're level 1. You are not ready for that, dude. You're fucked. Run. Yeah, the chaotic nature of it, I really love this weapon. It's just too good. There's no other thing you can do with it other than put it in S tier. I don't know, maybe me liking this means I have a sense of humor. Maybe it means I'm a fucking psychopath, who knows. I turned into a lich in Skyrim and played it with over 2,000 mods. Click this video right here to check that out.